So I have a couple of questions for you, Rage Cage.
All right, shoot.
Number one being, what is an idea or thought that made you side to the left, or like what was the turning point that made you be like, all right, this is where I need to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was officially kind of introduced to left and right politics or whatever, or American politics during the 2008 presidential election. I thought Mr. Obama was all goody goody. He was the man. He was mixed like myself, and he stood up for a lot of issues that I was only beginning to become aware of, like a lot of racial issues. And I just kind of became, more of a, like, more of a person that has faith in people. And, I guess I just kind of identified as a liberal, up until about like 2014, up until then I was straying a little bit more towards the center. And in 2014, when they had like the Trayvon Martin killings, all the police killings and stuff, I started really getting into fiery politics, you know. Then the 2016 debate came. That's when I discovered Bernie, Hero Bernie, Commissar Bernie. But,
Mr. Sanders. Yes.
And I mean, as time went on, just as I see more and more problems like the George Floyd protests, COVID, January 6th protests, like it just drove me more and more to dive deeper into like the politics of people, like the perception of human beings and the working class. And as I educated myself more, that just culminated into me becoming a freaking commie, a bit better read than dead commie.
Okay, so basically, you took a look at like a lot of the issues that were happening around the country from 2008 and onward. But what really is kind of striking me is that your main focus is more so on the people, is what it sounds like. Just like the people in general.
Well, I guess the idea that, that you said, what I base my ideology on is more of a compassion. It's more based on compassion for other human beings. And that's kind of ultimately evolved into, a compassion for working class human beings that, aren't fascists. But yeah, that's the basic idea.
Okay, yeah, so more of the majority of people, not even just in the country, but on the planet, would be considered like the working class. So, with that in mind, kind of getting where your roots started in your deciding your political stance and everything, I have a few more questions for you. So, what are some projects? So, okay, let's just say projects that you can start to kind of align with that maybe our government has implemented, but you need or that you think need to be improved. And this is kind of like a secondary question to that. So after you identify a few of these, what would you consider like a good change to those programs or ideas?
All right. So starting off, like with current American politics, I don't necessarily agree with pretty much anything the United States does. I think that, it's the system itself, though it's working as intended, isn't working for people. It's never been supposed to work for the people. Having said that, some ideals that the country was founded on, I can see them as good. Well, like so for example, like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights meant well, but were ultimately, the result of rich, rich white guys at the time, rich young white guys at the time who were just coming up with the country. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing for all these ideals, but they definitely need to be revised, updated. I think that America has to move on. And though it can remember its roots, it needs to be something that built off of and built better, So some things need revision and other things need total, 100% revolution, total change.
Right.
And so I think that is definitely something that needs to be looked at. As for issues that I think that could change, I kind of assumed like issues that we could change right now, like with a bit of preparation, these are some problems we can fix, some ideas we could improve on. And I think that the most important things that kind of got tied up in two of them were education and healthcare. I think both are essential to the working class. I think both should be human rights right out of the gate. Both should be publicly funded. I don't think that private institutions have any say in what healthcare we get, or when and where and what we should spend on our health issues. And I think that everything needs to be owned and operated by the workforce, by the American workforce. And that's something that a lot of do. A lot of countries just provide for their people, and that's definitely something it's definitely something we could build on, and it would immediately improve the individual as well as local, state, and countrywide.
Well, one, like medical bills are rather high, but where I can kind of have a little more input is in the schooling system, which is, I think it's kind of funny because with the internet, all of that information is on there. You just have to be willing to learn it. But to get the degrees and everything that you're able to take the degree and get a job, that would pay typically more than, somebody who's not going to college, let's say. It's almost like hidden behind a paywall. So
Yeah.
it's not just the knowledge, but it's the piece of paper that the college gives you.
Exactly. And I think that the American education system is very, very outdated and could be could be really improved. And I think the basis of that, you could have a basis like up to junior high level of education where you learn how to do basic things. Like you learn your maths, your sciences, you learn basic level things. And from there, like from high school and beyond, as you're developing, you develop what you want to do as an individual. You develop what job, you develop where you want to go as an individual. And you do that, you don't have to pay for you don't have to worry about the debt that comes behind it.
Yeah. So it's just like the standard core system. Basically where everybody's treated the same as if they were the same individual, intellectually wise, I guess, and they're not, or if they have the same passions, and that seems to be how the school system is kind of now, because everybody's given the same education, the same treatment. They're not, just like you said, because high school here is the same for everybody around the country, pretty much. There's not like little programs here and there that are like, oh, you want to do specifically welding? Well, we're going to give you courses here. We're going to have you take classes on how to weld, how to, or even if you wanted to start, freelance welding and stuff, and take like communication classes, so you can actually talk about your skills what you charge and get used to that with people. When something like that is actually, you either have to be lucky enough to work somewhere that will train you in house, or you're going to have to take a college course to do it.
Yeah.
So, and not everybody can just work somewhere and be like, oh, hopefully they'll teach me how to weld. But if you do want to be a welder and you don't have that opportunity, you're probably going to have to go to college.
And when you're focused on more so surviving, like if you have a family or you have personal responsibilities outside of schooling, and then, that just adds on top of the weight of being successful. People aren't doing jobs anymore just to do them. They aren't doing them because they're their favorite jobs. They're doing them because it'll help you make a living. They're going to trade jobs and like tech jobs because they're more profitable. They
Yeah.
make a better.
Yeah, financial gain.
Yeah, and to me, that's just not. If you're not happy, you're not living life right. And that's just how I see it. College should be there, like education should be there for the individual and for their development, not for big businesses, not to turn the university into a corporation.
Um, it's kind of funny because science actually works in that exact way. Like, we wouldn't be as far as we are if knowledge wasn't passed down through people and they were able to learn that and then in turn build upon it. Like, that's the whole premise of science, and not only science but mathematics as well. It's to be built upon. It's you're taking other people's ideas that have been looked at by other people in the field, and where they put that into motion. They're like, oh, that is a scientific fact, so now we can teach that. But then at the same time, they have theories too, where a lot of people are like, yeah, that is what we're believing could be, and that's part of it as well. And it's up to the future scientists and mathematicians and stuff to look at the theories and try to turn those into facts or disprove them. And it's a lot harder for people to be incentivized to go into those fields, especially when not everybody has the kind of money that is required to go to some colleges, because college is very, very expensive nowadays.
Right. And now before that, that could go into another question.
Does having a full communist government or society, however you want to put it, does it slow innovation because there is a lack of incentive, maybe pay wise or just overall, because everybody's needs are taken care of and they don't feel that way, like they don't feel like they need to? Or what are your thoughts?
So this is a very, very common argument, and it's pretty easy to disprove. Like going, just to put it simply, like why if innovation needed a profit incentive, then why did UGG, invent the fucking wheel? Why did fucking Tog invent the spear? The innovation is about survival. Innovation isn't about making money to survive. It's about inventing to survive. So if we look at the USSR, it was a country that existed from 1917 to 1991. Well, from 1917, in 1917, during the revolution, it was agrarian society. It relied heavily on agriculture. It wasn't very industrialized, although some parts were. And from 1917, by the time the 1950s rolled around, after a world war, it was competing with an economic superpower that had a 200-year head start on it. Like that's insane. And it was cut off. It started to become cut off from the rest of the world. There was a plethora of innovation in that, and I think that we're taught in today's society to do things for profit because doing things for profit equals survival, but I don't think that it really that is human nature. I think innovation is human nature, but I don't think that doing it for profit is human nature. And just kind of like, just for some more, you know, um, here, let me get into my notes here. You know, a government that can help you, you know, push forward, that takes care of your basic necessities. If you don't have to worry, you have more time to think about things. You know, just ask about, just ask people who do hobbies. You know, people who build models or whatever in whatever time that they can spare. You know, we don't just do things for a profit incentive. You know, we do things because it's fun. You know, we do things because we're human. We create things because that satisfies our human nature. And in a communist society, as a little bit more proof, you know, you had long lasting materials. You had cars that could go forever. They're still being used today. You have tanks from the Soviet era that are still being used on current battlefields in Ukraine. You know, you have people that are like living in Soviet block houses, not because they look good or they don't have any other choice, but because they lasted. But what do we get in a capitalist society? You know, we get phones with batteries that are designed to slow down after a few years, you know, and then you're supposed to upgrade to the newest phone that has what, one extra camera on it. And other than that, it's really not, doesn't have many differences. You know, we are told to constantly consume and forget about things. You know, we have military equipment to compare it to the Soviet military. We have military equipment that we barely use one weekend a month, and it still breaks down, you know. And we have roads that every winter get potholes in. Like, that's that's just insane, you know.
We've got
So
Marvel with the same crappy movies every time.
yeah, that's a good point. You know, that's
And
a
it's
really
like,
good point.
and
But
it's like, I haven't
but
really seen it. I heard they like lured people into Ant-Man, making it look all dark and serious, like compared to the last few movies.
well, that's the
Then it,
thing is,
then it ended up, anyways, back to topic at hand.
well, that's a good point. The movie industry is running out of ideas, running out of innovative ways to keep people in theaters. So what do? They recycle the same old shit, you know?
Yeah, and it's like they're basically like everyone's point of view now is like, oh, okay, if we just throw in like this massive CGI like orgy with half-assed and forced humor, and we just take one of them, we put like Chris Evans as the lead role or someone that was in the Avengers, we'll make $1 billion. It ends up being like one of the worst movies you've ever watched.
Well, anyways, to you know, kind of end my argument against that is in a communist society does not do things for profit. Nothing that a communist society does is profit. It's purely based on people. It's purely based so that you, as the individual, can create for the people around you. Not to be a billionaire, not to have things. You know, communism creates a society in where you are remembered for the things that you contribute to society, not the things that you have and show off to society. You know, communism innovates for people. Capitalism innovates for profit, and profit decides make when you make progress or slow down.
Huh. The more you know, kids.
But yeah, that concludes my argument.
What other whimsical questions have you got for him, Dario?
Whimsical, huh? Well, considering we just went like a full communist society, based off of where we are now, is this next question. So, considering that you line to the left, How do you differ from other politically left-aligned people?
Okay, so the left is a plethora of different types of people. You have freaking social democrats, you have liberals, you have anarcho-communists, you have anarchists, regular communists. It can go on and on. So what I'm going to do is just do the basic split, and I'm going to tell you guys how I differ from, the American left, the absolute American left. So I I differ from the likes of like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and even Bernie Sanders. They, they all believe in capitalism. Bernie Sanders believes in a nicer capitalism, a capitalism with a smiley face, but in the end game, he believes in capitalism. And I don't see that as a sustainable economic, system, because you're trying to have infinite growth with finite resources. As for Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, they're not even, you can barely consider them left. Like,
They're just retarded.
They're more, yeah, they're
You
more
know,
Wake him, he's sleeping.
You've got Biden like wandering off looking for the ice cream truck during a freaking speech.
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it's not an ice cream truck. I've just seen like all the edits, and it's just.
But yeah, I mean, they're more center. They're at the actual center. A lot of conservatives will call them leftists or communists. That's not true. We communists hate them as much as you guys do, but we do not like Hitler and Nancy, and they are not communists. So please, please don't call them such.
They're just retarded.
But that's basically where I differ on my positions. Social Democrats, I can kind of vibe with. I can kind of, understand here in America. But
Yeah, you'd maybe hit the club with him.
yeah, they tell me they're Social Democrats, and I'll be like, well, time to move on. So, but yeah, that's the big divide there, is that I am not a believer in capitalism, and that defines me from the American left.
Again, sticking with the American, let's keep in mind left and right. What are ways that both the left and right parties in the United States negatively influence Americans?
So I do. So I guess I can see what you mean by this. I'm not one to have a both sides argument, because economically, one side wants healthcare, basic human rights. One side wants, just kind of peace. And the other side wants you to be exterminated for, being someone different. The other side wants you to work for pennies and not get anything out of it. And in terms of that, those two basic ideas, like, I can't say that I side with, I have a both sides argument, because I hate fucking right and everything that stands for. I'm sorry to a certain viewer for using the F-bomb. I will try to refrain from using it. But anyways,
He's apologizing to his grandma.
no, I got it. Anyways.
Okay. Hi, KJ's grandma.
So I will say, however, that the left, and this goes for all leftists, not just within the American, outside the American, we do have an issue of approaching men. We have an issue of approaching like straight men, white men. It's hard, but
You should never say we have a problem with approaching white men and it's hard in the same sentence, though.
Oh,
Just kidding.
Yeah, it makes us kind of uncomfortable.
Oh my god. Well, I see a lot of like attacking, and even I've been attacked for saying something, you know, out like I didn't mean, or just growing up in a small town, not around a lot of different people, like just things that I've said, offend people. And online, it's hard because online we're just names and pictures next to the name. So when you're attacked by a trans person or person like person of color or a woman, it's hard, and it's really like it kind of shakes you a little bit because you're like, you say, well, I'm on your side. Like, I'm here fighting for you. Like, how could you even say that about me? And it kind of makes you want to be angry. It kind of makes you like, why do I even side with these people? But it takes a lot of effort as men, you know, we can't be too triggered by these things. We can't be the freaking snowflakes we claim that they are. Because this community, we forget this community has been subject to a number of different, different oppressions, different situations, bullying. They've been absolutely harassed, and online as well as offline. So sometimes they're obviously going to take their anger out. It's something that we, or, me as an ally, I have to deal with. I have to take a brunt of that. I have to swallow whatever I want to say. And I have to be like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, I understand you have different thoughts. You have more of an understanding of you than I have of you. And I have to make that clear and respect that. I can't just go being angry at you and people like you because you're yelling at me. Because the history that your community has people bullying you, has people committing violent acts towards you, committing violent pieces of legislation towards you.
Hogwarts Legacy.
You're used to being attacked, and so I apologize. However, that being said, the trans community and the left does have to take things slow with people, with small town leftists, liberals, centrists, whatever. If you're on the right wing, you're just you're kind of lost because you're gonna be like that, and you're not gonna want to back down from your position. But to the centrists, like liberals, the American left, you know, we have to be more understanding and not so aggressive when approaching people that we want to be allies. As men, the best way to show an alliance with these people is standing next to them, is saying, "Hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna fight for your right to be whoever you want, even though I may not understand it. I'm gonna go out and I understand you're different from me, but that still makes you a human being. So we have to kind of come to a mutual agreement and respect each other's individual rights. And it's really hard for the left to do that because they act too aggressively emotional. So that's one of my critiques. The right wing, yeah, you're not for the people. You're only for profit. You want freaking fascist things to be done to fascist people. Everything about you is wrong. Everything about you is authoritarian. Like, I do not agree with you. I don't respect you. And if you're not for the people, you're against the people. So that's all I have to say about what both sides do to America and how both sides are bad for it.
Okay. Well, stepping out of America, how do you think the United States, like political game as a whole, I guess, compared to some other countries' political games?
So I like this question. Like this. I would say the U.S. is trending kind of downwards. Just to pull out some statistics here. Here in the United States, this is the literacy rate. For the United States, we have an 86% literacy rate. Just to put that in perspective, Mexico has a 93% literacy rate. Thailand has a 96% literacy rate. Canada has a 99% literacy rate. And in terms of life expectancy, let's go to that. The United States ranks 46th in life expectancy, and that's one place below Cuba. The country that is right next to us that we've been strangling. So that's interesting that we don't have a higher life expectancy.
We have more McDonald's.
Yeah. But one thing, now this list is going to be kind of an embarrassment for the U.S. that I got here, but this is one thing where they rank above Cuba. In infant mortality at 173rd, the United States has 5.12 deaths per 1,000 births, and Cuba comes in at 187 at 4.07 deaths per 1,000 people. And to those of you who doesn't know what that means, more babies die in the United States than, yeah, you guessed it, communist, socialist, scary, authoritarian, Castro, Cuba. That's also weakened by sanctions. So, hey, and I bet you guys will never guess where I got that fact. Where does that source come from?
Wikipedia.
Nope.
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I know where it's not from. I know it wasn't on the bottom of a Snapple lid.
Nope. It's from the CIA World Fact.
They played themselves.
Yep. One more little statistic just to make the argument here. Let's look at home ownership rates. Right? Everybody loves owning a home. Everybody wants to own a home.
I can't really enjoy what I've never done.
Well, we all want that American dream. White picket fence, dog, house painted, whatever.
Man, I just want to snort crack.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting.
So yeah, you like it up the nose. So I know some people prefer to smoke it, but sure.
Like the great, like Ralph from Ed, Ed Eddie says, life has many openings, Ed boy. Knock, knock, knock. Anyways,
getting back to the point, so we're looking at home ownership rates. The United States has a 65% home ownership rate. To put that in perspective again, Mexico has an 80% home ownership rate. And, this one's just so I can rub it in, but Cuba, socialist, Vietnam, socialist, Laos, partially socialist, China, partially socialist, Russia, formerly socialist, and fucking India, which is just plain poor, all have higher rates than that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with India, though. Like, I've seen the videos of those guys making those tools. They can just go out and make themselves a little hut. It's like they just get off the 3-week shift at customer support. Then they just go build a house, and then just put a little cow out front. They don't just like, oh, there we go. Thank you. Come again.
Oh no.
Sorry. I'm kidding.
I've been debunked.
Yeah. And Chinese, I don't know what the Chinese do. The Cubans probably. I think the Cubans they just, I don't know, smoke cigars, and then they just use the ashes to build a house, make them into bricks, and just build it all up into a house.
But yeah, that's my argument with that. That's what I have to say about American politics and their trend.
Wild.
What would you say are the goals for some of the bigger countries out there? Obviously, the United States, China, Russia. I guess we can even throw like NATO in as a whole, but that's more of just like a coalition of a bunch of countries. So, however you feel on that.
So
The answer is simple: bestiality. Anyways,
God, jeez. Oh no.
I mean, let's be fair. Like the state we live in has a very high like bestiality rate, apparently, which is not surprising
Yeah, I wouldn't.
considering that two of us live in the crack capital of Utah right now. Anyways, back to KJ's Ragens. Oh crap, I can't talk. Back to Ragens. Cajuns. Okay, just go back to talking.
Okay. So I would say that every major country's goal is economic power, right? You know, you always want to have allies everywhere you go. For the United States, it has a pretty firm grasp on the rest of the world. I mean, it has 750 different bases in 80 different countries. It has all those bases and all of their allies surrounding every economic rival that they have. I think that all those countries are just kind of, vying for power. And with China is in the best spot to challenge it, I guess. They don't have, now, a lot of people worry about China, but China has nowhere near the economic influence that the United States does. China's investing in a lot of poorer countries, and see that how you will, that's a hot topic for discussion among leftists as well as the rest of humanity. But I think that everybody is just playing checkers with the world right now, and all these major countries that have the resources to play checkers are vying for a superpower status, are vying for places that they can export their capital, export their economy, and import the net gains from all of that. And I think that the East is starting to gain a little more momentum in that. And that's, of course, making the United States and Western powers like NATO, like the rest of NATO, very worried because they feel as if, more smaller countries are going to rebel against them. They're not going to have workforce. They're not going to be able to export workforces to Costa Rica or, export or import like diamonds and labor from Africa. So I think that basically the world is a big checkerboard right now, and we're all see how it goes.
The little guys are just playing tic-tac-toe.
Yep.
So another one I have here for you. It's kind of interesting because it would be hard to understand the full impact. Let's just say, because every person in the United States has a political view to some degree, at least. Now, and when I say political sides, I just mean that group everybody into left and right, right?
Yeah.
So like, if they were able to have talks without raising tensions, without basically slandering one another, what kind of impact could we expect on American politics? And I mean just like the people overall, not just the representatives, senators, and stuff like that.
Well, honestly, it would be a tremendous impact. It would be a global impact. It would have ripples throughout the world because the working class just united. The working class just gained class consciousness and now realizes that they have power to do with what they please. You know, they're going to upend the most powerful capitalist country in the world. They're going to stand up against it. They're going to freaking they're going to dismantle it. That's insane to think about. And that's what that's what the far left wants. That's what, that's what from anarchist communists want. They want that unification. They want to stand up to oppression. They want to stand up to the American state and and the owners of that state. And they want to see something built by and for the people. You ask any conservative, you ask any conservative what they would want. They want a government by and for the people. The only speculation with that is that they go around defending the actual owners of the government, which is hypocritical.
I say we just dismantled the establishment like that episode of SpongeBob.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so what we want. And
then we just then we'll just be like the Greeks where we had all our own small little cities all in there, minus the massive gay orgies and little boy grooming. But we kind of, so basically that can all just stay over there in California. Then we can just fence that off.
Oh my God.
Just if we get some little kid that says something stupid like, "Oh, look, Daddy, I'm playing as Zelda," I went through a link and just tossed him over the wall. Okay, there's your sacrifice.
Oh no,
that was terrible. That was terrible. That was terrible.
You kind of have the right, idea where we could have communes, where we're governing kind of ourselves on the local and individual level, but within a communist society, that's how it works. It's built from the bottom up, and it doesn't have. We as people have democratic say in our workplaces, and we have democratic say in our lives. So I think that is what everybody wants. People just don't understand that that's what they want. People want to be left alone, but there's only so much you can do alone. People want to be left alone because we're indoctrinated to think that. And I think that it's again human nature to be in a community which supports you because you support it. So, I think that if workers in this country combined, they threw the culture wars out the door, they would upend the entire world and inspire the entire world to do the same thing. But the culture war has to be finished first, and they're not going to get a finish unless you respect people's individual rights to do certain things, right to bear arms, right to be trans, whatever, with certain stipulations, obviously. There are some socially unacceptable things like being pedophiles or whatever, but
bestiality.
Yeah, but you have every right to be who you want to be as an individual, as long as it is morally, as long as it's humanely okay, So, yeah, I think that would be a big deal, but the culture war's got to be won first, and it's not going to be won if we continue to fight over these small things that capitalists set in front of us,
I do think both, people are just so stuck fighting with one another, and there's always something in the news to rally us up, I guess, or rile us up, and just point fingers at something that really doesn't matter a lot of the time too.
Right.
Like
Right.
especially with Hollywood for one, it's like I feel like we're putting a lot of attention, not me personally, but as a society, a lot of attention into like celebrities' lives and drama. But like, I don't understand why, because they can't, they're not affecting necessarily like the world or the country or even the state they're in on a grand scheme of things, unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger because
Yeah.
he was governor. You know what I mean? The fighting between just people in society, I feel that's a pretty big handicap to have as a society is to
Well, I just want to say, like, these leftist arguments, they're not going to bankrupt us. No matter what you hear from a Republican or a moderate liberal, you know, a free, like, universal health care isn't going to bankrupt us. We're the richest country in the world. If it doesn't bankrupt a small country like freaking Denmark, how would it do a bankrupt? You
well,
know,
we
I
are
mean,
sending money to other countries as well. I just
well,
don't see why we can do that but not do the other, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're giving a blank check to Ukraine, and then we, give almost $1 trillion to our military. So I guess you're right in that aspect, is that we spend all of our riches on global supremacy rather than right here in the Imperial Senate. So,
Well, I mean, if you take it down to a personal level, they want, like, a good saying is you got to help yourself before you help somebody else. Like, you have to be able to,
yeah, I can see that.
because if you can't grow as a person yourself and then you expand it to like an entire country, if we can't grow like closer together, solve more of the issues that we find ourselves faced with. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that we're helping out other countries in times of disaster as well, like when earthquakes and stuff happen, you know. But
Well, that's the thing is that you know somebody, even our own country, our own states have natural disasters. We pull out the insides of our pockets and we're like, where's the money? But when Ukraine gets in a war with an economic superpower, we're like, oh baby, 24 million or 24 billion right off the bat. Every tank we got, ammunition, not anymore. We don't need it. Ukraine's going to use it.
I
We'll fight the Russians down to the last Ukrainian.
see. I also find it weird. So obviously, it's a bigger threat to, let's say, the NATO countries. One, because they're right there, and they're they are not helping nearly as much as the United States has, in my opinion.
They don't have nearly as big of a military as the United States has. And, they used to rely heavily on Russian oil. It was cheap. It's right there on the same continent. So I think that, you can't, countries that focus more on their people, which Europe does it better, but I don't think that they're any better than the United States. Europe just takes better care of the people. But when you don't have that much, when you don't invest that much into a military and you only send your spares, of course, the warmongering, uh, superpower is going to send most of the shit. They have the most to gain out of this. Rather, their corporations have the most to gain out of this.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like the United States is like a vigilante of the world, but
Hey, I got one for you, KJ or Cajun.
Yeah. What is it?
Okay, KJ. I have a question.
Yeah.
So now I understand this is going to be very controversial due to a lot of your political views, and I know this is something you hold very personal to you. It is a movement you've been part of for many years. This
Okay.
question has nothing to do with that. Do you consider a horse penis to be a masturbatory aid?
Oh, what?
You heard me. Answer the question. Answer the question.
Oh, no, I do not think that.
Okay.
That is another thing
Flaccid or erect?
that people on the left, or specifically more so women on the left, have, is that they get these giant things, and then they expect,
Men to
you know,
live up to that.
they expect
Oh my god!
even the
Dude,
most
like for real, like I've seen pictures of that, and it's like you've
Even-
got like a freaking like you got like it's like all these like dragons, T-Rexes, horses, crab, they know all these different types of animals and stuff. It's like, bro, this is why. Why?
and even the most gifted of men cannot stand up to the likes of toys. So
It's like it's like getting a hot dog. So you can get into like a freaking what do you call them? Freaking having a retard moment here. Dropping it into like a launcher or something and just launching it to outer space. That's what it's like.
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
really.
it's too small. Oh, it's not too small. Let me tell you something, honey.
And then she's like, well, you don't make me feel good anymore. It's like, well, what do you expect? That's designed to freaking destroy you. What do you want? Anyway.
Good lord.
I went off the rails for a second. Oh yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
Oh.
Yeah, I got another question. I got another one. Who do you think? No. That's too controversial. Okay, dare you in your turn.
Dang it, Jade! You got me all excited.
Oh.
Do you think that the idea of having debates on political policies or politics in general shows that it can never be quite perfect?
I think the debates really do kind of show that people won't back down, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot to back down from something you're so heavily invested in. So, I mean, yeah, it is imperfect, and until we understand that people are going to have different views, until we understand that people are going to struggle with unlearning things and learning new things, it's really going to be hard to change people's minds, and that's why wars culminate. That's why we go to killing each other rather than trying to make an understanding, because there's an outlier involved or there's heavy investment involved. And so, yeah, I'm not a big fan of debates. I more so like discussions. I like when people are approached with a challenge, like a question, and I answer to the best of my ability, or someone else answers to the best of their ability. But when you're just there to piss someone off, when you're just there to own someone, quote unquote, nothing gets done. You don't get anything done, especially when, you're arguing with someone who maybe is well versed in debate, who's maybe just a regular person. So all these debate lords that go around debating random people, I'm not a big fan of that on either side of the aisle. I think that we should all have discussions. We should all say, oh, you think this? Okay, well, this is why I think that is wrong. And this is what my solution is towards. Notice how whenever a question is asked at like a debate, an American debate, an American political debate, like between two presidential, candidates, neither the question just doesn't get answered. They just start arguing. So
That's
yeah,
fair. Yeah.
well,
Especially the last one with Trump and Biden. They just kind of went after each other.
Yeah, I heard that was wild. Like that was an absolute shit fest.
yeah, it was a mess, So yeah,
Well, Rage Cage, do you have anything else for us?
look, yeah, just one more thing. This has been kind of a little bit of a long one, but as people, we should be for people. We should be, or if we don't respect ourselves, then at least like respect your family and friends. Every policy that the left or communists like me or anyone stand for is to benefit you. And this isn't just propaganda. This isn't me, like being a fucking bot or whatever. This is me telling you that I am for you. Even if you're a conservative, I don't care. I want to give healthcare to you. And if you're a conservative, I don't care. I want to give education to you. I want to make sure that even if your child is a Christian, I want to make sure that they respect the rights of trans people as well as trans people respect the rights of them. You don't have like someone, but you have to understand someone. You have to align with someone because these people are just like you. These people on the left are just passionate speakers. So some ideals, right wing ideals, I don't agree with because they aren't for you. They're basically fear mongering tactics. They're for rich people. They're there to support rich people. And that's just something, if you're siding with profit over people, you're siding with pieces of paper and numbers over humanity. And that's just something I cannot and will not agree with. So take that as you want. That's my plea to you to come, study more leftist politics, understand more, and not just, go with the classical conservative right wing talking head. Explore, that's how I did it. I wasn't indoctrinated by anything. I just went in for more information and I kept looking and I was like, hey, these are ideas I absolutely agree with.
Marvelous.
I
don't know. I've seen plenty enough of both sides, and I just kind of just hate both. I just think the whole system. I think the whole system's jacked. We need to just do a hard reboot of the system.
Revolution. That's what it's called.
And yeah, that's I don't know, because I mean, if after looking back at at the shitstorm of COVID, the fact people still genuinely think oh, our government cares for us, and it's bruh, nah.
Yeah, I can agree with you, probably for different reasons, but I can agree with that general remark.
And it's just
we just need to keep indoor plumbing.
Yeah,
that's something I'm about. That's the hill I'll die on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just everything.
As a man, hill I'll die on. No more tours. No more outlaw. I'm all stupid.
Dude, can you imagine? Okay, so back
lift the seat.
Yeah.
Back to what I said earlier about splitting up the just getting rid of the government, just dividing up into small communities like the Greek, back in the Greek days. Imagine how the Appalachians or the Bayou people would be. You know how freaking sketchy that would be.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. You
go to one of the Appalachian cities, and it's all these freaking deformed hunchback creatures, all from inbreeding. And it's just like, well, Sam's idea certainly didn't work very well.
Well, I think that's the end. I think